Hi, I'm Michelle Casorla, and I'm a professor of English at Georgia State University, Perimeter College, and I hail from the Atlanta area. Anything I'm saying in this video does not represent the views or the perspectives of Georgia State University. These views are my own, so I'm just going to throw out that little thing. All right, so this is the second in a series of beginner levels of teaching with AI. And hopefully you're going to learn a few things. This is about the AI detection trap because it's not a trap I want you to fall into. This is called Reclaiming Academic Integrity in the Age of Generative AI. So let's get into it. So ChatGPT fell, as you know, November 30th, 2022. All right. Now, at that point, I kind of went into this death spiral myself. And I said, what am I teaching? I teach writing, right? So what am I teaching? Why am I teaching it? What's different between me and robots? What is human about humanness? What is knowledge? These were some basic things that I started to wonder about. And I really went into a panic. I think a lot of people did. But by summer of 2023, I was working with my colleague Eugenia Novok-Shinova, and we were already building AI classes. So we have been working with AI in every class, in almost every lesson since 2023. So that's why I'm here, and I'm talking about these things with you. Okay, so generative AI tools like ChatGPT rapidly reshaped education, sending many educators scrambling for solutions to deter cheating. This rapid adoption of AI freaked everybody out. There was panic everywhere over academic integrity, and this turned us into a bunch of cops instead of a bunch of teachers. And one of the things that I always say is that we need to put down the whistle, take off the policeman's cap, and teach, because we are not policemen. Okay, get back to what you really love. So I'm going to talk a little bit in this video about how you do that. So AI detection tools run on an algorithm, and they're looking for two specific things to differentiate between human and AI writing. Okay, so they're looking for example, perplexity. This is the predictability of text, and they're looking for something called burstiness. Wow, I think I have burstiness. The variability in sentence structure. So the great irony is, first of all, that these detectors are AI themselves. So if you don't trust AI, if you think AI hallucinates, if you have some problems with AI, why are you trusting AI to tell you if your student is using AI? This is ridiculous. Okay, just stop. Just stop it, okay? So detectors frequently flag entirely human written text as AI generated. If you doubt me, take something you wrote before AI came about and stick it through an AI detector. I just bet you, especially if it was very formal writing, that you're going to find that it says that it's AI written, or at least part of it is AI written, okay? Because if you're writing in very predictable ways and you're writing in a formal style, chances are AI is going to say that it's AI. Also, by the way, while we're on that topic, if you're in the STEM field, there was recent studies that came out that said STEM people are more likely to be flagged in as AI generated. Their work is more likely to be flagged as AI generated than people in humanities. And that's because there's a very formulistic way of writing in those STEM fields. So because of the higher error rates in false positives, that's accusing people who are perfectly innocent, OpenAI actually shut down its own AI detector in early 2023 because it knew that there was a big problem with trying to determine if somebody had used AI with AI. And this false positive rate is super dangerous, okay? If there's only a 1% false positive rate in 22 million freshman essays over the global world, then that's 220,000 falsely accused students. So If only one student is falsely accused, that's too many in my book. So AI detectors are presenting a really big ethical minefield and also legal minefield, by the way, while we're at it, because they exhibit significant algorithmic bias. So there's a lot of studies that have demonstrated that they disproportionately penalize ESL students, neurodiverse students, and a lot of marginalized groups like students who aren't comfortable with writing, who they weren't good at writing. Maybe they write in very simplistic sentence structures because they're uncomfortable with the educational process. So first generation college students, we're talking about students who were, from military families and went, bobbing around every 3 months to a different place. All of these students have difficulty with writing. And so they're going to stick with what they are sure is okay, which is very simplistic sentence structures. And that's exactly um, what is flagged by an AI detector. So these students are more likely to be flagged, and that's not fair. So we also have a big problem with false positive rates. Okay, so what that means is people who did use AI that the AI detector is not seeing. And that's because they're using what are called humanizers, but they don't even really have to use those. In fact, a lot of studies are showing that if you just go in and change a couple of things around a little bit, you just rewrite a couple of sentences or whatever, then AI is going to say, "Oh, this is perfectly fine." If you paraphrase things, "Oh yeah, it's fine." So the savvy students who are using AI to cheat, they're not getting caught. But the students who are innocent and are not using AI, they are being caught. So we have to add the false positive rate to that false negative rate to show that these detectors are incredible failures. So false accusations are causing really severe psychological and material consequences to our students. Whenever you use an AI detector, even if you're not using it to absolutely, nail your students or whatever, if you're just using it, it's causing incredible stress for your students, and it's causing a really big problem with trust in the classroom. I'm a writing teacher, and I know that my students, if they don't trust me, they're not gonna be able to write for me well. So if I put an AI detector in my class, those students are going to have a really, really difficult time because they're not trusting that AI detector as they should. They shouldn't trust it, and so it's causing those students incredible stress because they have very severe academic problems, delayed graduations, canceled scholarships, all of this because somebody might have accused them falsely of using AI. So I've had honors students dumbing down their work. Um, some students are recording their screens for hours as they do homework just to prove that they've been doing their actual work and that they haven't been using AI. And they're even using keystroke tracking word processors to prove their innocence. And they're doing this without someone looking over their shoulder. So how are you going to be actually doing your studies if you feel like you're in this surveillance place? If somebody was looking over your shoulder at everything you're doing and had you under surveillance for everything that you're writing, do you think you're going to be doing your best work? Nah, you're not going to be doing your best work. And it's really unfair to our students. So relying heavily on surveillance technology damages the fundamental relationship between educators and students. It creates an atmosphere of distrust and a presumption of guilt that can deeply discourage academic engagement and undermine perception of fairness because those students are being accused basically by a robot. So this has led to an institutional rebellion. So due to massive reliability and ethical concerns, major universities worldwide have been pushing back against AI detectors like Curtin University, Vanderbilt University, University of California, Berkeley. They've all explicitly disabled things like Turnitin's AI detection feature, and they've strongly advised against its use. And there's a whole bunch. I've got a list of hundreds of universities globally who have done this because it's really dangerous to be using these AI detectors. And if you're not using an AI detector that's like within your LMS system, like you're going outside to, I don't know, chat GPT zero or something like that, you're doing something even worse, which is not only are you using a really fallible tool to try to tell if your students are cheating, but you're also sharing their private intellectual work with an AI provider, that they're going to be adding this intellectual work into their data set. And that's not right for your students. You're doing something incredibly unethical. So please, please don't do that. So how do we deal with this if we're not using an AI detector? So now I'm changing the color of my slides because, we're in the light. That was the dark. Okay, so there's a paradigm shift. You have to stop policing and start using pedagogy instead. So what you're going to be doing instead of policing your students is you're paying attention to teaching and pedagogy. You're looking to foster learning, to scaffold processes, to build relationships with your students. And this is going to help you more than a faulty AI detector. So there's a new framework that most people are talking about in this space, which is there's strong policies, there's AI literacy, so that your students know the difference between using AI as a co-thinker and using AI to substitute for them. And we're also getting into rethinking our assessment. So what are we assessing? And the ways that we've assessed things in the past have been ineffective in the world of AI. So the first thing is we have to have policy and transparency. You have to be defining acceptable AI use on your syllabus. You have to tell the students, this is what I accept. And don't say no AI, because if you say no AI, like, what do you mean? There's AI in everything. There's AI in Grammarly, there's AI in Microsoft Word, in Google, there's AI in everything now. So you have to be very explicit about exactly what you mean by no AI. And if you don't know anything about AI, it's even worse to say no AI because you don't even know what to exclude. You better get on board and learn a little bit about it because otherwise you don't know how to express this. You also need to implement process statements, talk about the things that you want your students to be doing in order to succeed in your class, the process that they should be going through. You should also be elevating AI literacy. So you're going to be working on teaching with AI instead of teaching against AI, which, by the way, doesn't work. I've tried. I tried really hard, and you can't really teach against AI. The best way to do it is to just embrace this tool and start to move forward. So if you have just wanted to ignore AI and say, no, I'm not doing any AI, take a moment, mourn for all of those times before the age of AI that you did great teaching and great learning, and then put them behind you and move forward because you're going to have to embrace a new way of teaching to your students in this new age. They are always going to have AI from this point on, and they need to learn how to use it. So you want to position AI as an augmentation tool, but not a replacement for them. And you need to talk about what the difference is between those two, because a lot of students don't understand. They don't understand how to use AI for educational purposes. And we're going to talk about that further on in the series. And also you need to rethink your assessment. You're going to be scaffolding your assignments. And I'm saying not skills. You're not scaffolding skills. You're scaffolding your lessons. So a whole bunch of little pieces leading up to a bigger lesson, flat grading scales, process, metacognition, all of this is going to be important. And you're going to be using multimodal and process-oriented grading. So you want to really see them working in a whole bunch of different modes, and you want to be looking at their process, not their product. Because look, what we thought we were grading, product, is no longer proof of learning. Finally, you have to pay attention to this human element. You have to look at what is their voice, and I've been calling voice brand. So what is your student's brand? Can you tell it's them? Can you tell the difference between their voice and AI? If you can't, you need to talk to your students about exactly how to facilitate their own voice. And it's not easy to teach, but you should be able to see the personality of your students. And this is a really, really hard with a lot of ESL students and neurodivergent students. They have difficulty with this. So be patient, come up with some ways that they can learn how to do this, and start paying attention to that human element, because that's the future of education. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will be back with part 3 probably next week. All right, take care.